All right, so next up will be carbon cycle. Let me make sure I put this in the slideshow so I can write on it. All right, so this is okay. Carbon cycle is not bad here, but there's one thing that I take offense with here. So carbon cycle, first thing you want to remember is the largest reservoir, so it sounds like reserve, where's the largest reserve for carbon, or sink it's called, is going to be the ocean, because carbon dioxide can dissolve in the ocean, as can oxygen, right? And because the ocean is so huge, so of course it can hold a lot of carbon. There's one more reason, but we'll get to that in a second. All right, but we're going to start in the land portion. Lots of the same stuff's happening in the ocean, but in the land portion, I've got my producers here. I'm going to draw a tree. I should have picked it in green, but that's okay. And there's a bunch of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. And the way that it first gets to living things is going to be via your producers, your photosynthetic organisms, either in the ocean or on land. They're taking up that carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. So they're taking that carbon, and along with water, they're smashing these pieces essentially together with the help of the energy from the sun to make glucose. So glucose is going to be at least partially going to be used to make lipids for the cell membranes, proteins for their whole bodies, the cell wall. So this glucose, the carbon that comes from carbon dioxide, is actually going to be used to make cell matter. It's going to make the plant. A plant is made up of at least partially this carbon that was a gas. Like, that's the most interesting thing I've ever heard in my whole life, right? All right, so now there's carbon. I'm going to write a bunch of C's so that you know that the carbon came from that carbon dioxide, and now it's in their cells. And guess what? Now a little bunny can eat it. Little consumers can eat it. I'm going to draw my bunny. And now there's a bunch of carbon in him because he got the carbon, or she got the carbon from the producer. This particular little circle I find weird, so I'm going to jump to these two guys. When these guys die, and all other organisms, when you die, oops, sorry about that, then you have decomposition. Decomposer bacteria, they take a lot of that decomposing matter, and they're actually going to break apart lots of bits of these nutrients. And as they do so, then they're going to release carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide out via decomposition. All right. Well, when things are living, I'm going to draw a little man here too, a big old stick figure. When the trees are living, when that bunny was living. Another way that carbon's leaving out back into the atmosphere is via respiration. Respiration means carbon dioxide out. And all living organisms that perform cellular respiration are doing so because they need energy. They need ATP energy. You're breaking down the glucose, some of which maybe came from, the fat. Literally, I always like to grab the fat so you can see some of that. It's broken down. Broken down further for energy. The carbon is released as carbon dioxide, and you get some energy for growth. If things don't decompose, maybe because there wasn't any oxygen present, they might start to get buried little by little. You get buried, some of that water gets boiled off thanks to high pressure, high temperature. Millions of years go by, and there's still a bunch of carbon. It's just some of the other stuff isn't there. These carbon deposits, super high lots of carbon, hydrocarbons, carbon rich, however you want to think of it. These are your fossil fuels. Oil, natural gas, coal come from ancient organisms that did not decompose, but their carbon atoms come in this really, really dense, energy-rich form, which humans extracted a lot of. And it's okay if you just had barrels of oil that you didn't burn. It would just be carbon that stays in a barrel. But what we do is we light it on fire and it combusts. Combustion releases carbon dioxide out. Okay? And a lot of the same stuff's happening in your ocean. So your photosynthesizers take carbon dioxide in. Anything that performs cellular respiration, carbon dioxide out. Some stuff gets buried, becomes fossil fuels. There's a couple of different things in their ocean happening. So because it's a gas, and because carbon dioxide can, little bits of carbon dioxide, little pockets of carbon dioxide, however you want to think of it, can dissolve into the ocean. Some of it's going to dissolve into the ocean, exchange, but some of the dissolved carbon dioxide that's in the ocean is also going to dissolve back out. So we call that exchange. And it doesn't mean that it's a perfect balance. It doesn't mean that what's going in is coming out. Because right now, since there's a lot of carbon dioxide out, there's definitely a lot of carbon dioxide going into the ocean. Because there's a lot of carbon dioxide. There's a high concentration of carbon dioxide right now. Some of the carbon dioxide that's in the ocean actually gets used. Oh, they don't have it here, do they? Not really. Might actually get used by calcified organisms to build their shells, because it's made out of carbon, calcium carbonate. And maybe when they die, they kind of stick around at the bottom of the ocean for a little while. Maybe they'll get pummeled into smaller and smaller pieces. Maybe it'll make sand. But you might call that sedimentation.